Welcome back, everybody, to Washington Football Maniacs. We are your hosts, Brandon Scott, with my guy, Greg Sykes. Tonight, we are going to cover a lot, so definitely tune in. But before we get into our content tonight, if you're not a member of Washington Football Maniacs, definitely consider it, man. We've got a lot of content coming your way, man. We got the rest of the season, we got the off season, we got the draft, a lot of good stuff to talk about. So definitely consider becoming a member of Washington Football Maniacs. But let's dig into it tonight. We're going to cover a lot of uncertainty in Pittsburgh. If Mike Tomlin is at his end of his tenure, should the Washington Commanders consider a move for a local product in Mike Tomlin? And looking at the draft, we're going to look at the first three picks for the Washington Commanders. We're all going to put our GM hats on tonight. So let's get into it. A lot of uncertainty in Pittsburgh, Greg. A lot of uncertainty. I really question it, considering this guy is the second winningest coach in Pittsburgh Steelers history. But you know, what is the kind of the motto of sports? What have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? So, you know, people will set you loose if you're not successful. A lot of issues in Pittsburgh, you know, George Pickens and his issues. I watched an article not too long ago about a lot of the receivers that were drafted in Pittsburgh were high risk. And I guess now they're kind of criticizing, whereas a lot of them were productive. Not many people knew Antonio Brown was going to have that massive meltdown, right? But looking at Pittsburgh uncertainty with Mike Tomlin, if his tenure in Pittsburgh ends, should the Washington Commanders consider trading for Mike Tomlin and bringing him to Washington, D.C. to be the head coach?
Well, you know, here's the thing. From what I've heard with now, you know, of course, ultimately, I think it's going to be up to whoever our general manager is going to be, because I think for one thing, I think Josh Harris really wants more of a traditional type of situation in the front office. He wants to be able to hire the right guy to be the general manager, and then he wants that general manager to go seeking the right candidate for the head coaching position. Having said that, from what I've also heard, is that Josh Harris does tend to like seasoned veteran type of coaches to be able to come in and turn things around for his teams. Now, you know, of course, I haven't followed the NBA as much as you have, Brandon, and of course, haven't really followed hockey as much. So other people can speak on that a little bit more as far as his other professional teams. But if that is the case, then I most definitely can see Josh Harris owned Commanders team chomping at the bits to go after someone like Mike Tomlin, if Mike Tomlin is going to be free as far as going somewhere else to coach. And honestly, I would not object to that whatsoever. I have always really admired Mike Tomlin. He's been one of the most consistent head coaches in the league. I mean, he's been with Pittsburgh for, was it 16, 17 years, somewhere around there. I mean, he's been very successful. He's had winning season after winning season, even when it seems like, you know, he just doesn't have much. You know, of course, after Big Ben has retired, haven't had much as far as to work with in the quarterback position. I know that Pickett, I mean, you know, the things are still out. You know, the case, I guess, is still out for him as far as, you know, can he be a franchise quarterback? But besides that, I mean, somehow, even when it looks bleak in Pittsburgh, Tomlin finds a way to win. And I think because of that, you always want to find a coach like that. And he's a player's coach. So I would jump at the chance. Now, of course, there's a lot of other fans out there who would probably be like, look, we have already went that route of trying to get a retread in someone like Ron Rivera, who we thought was also probably kind of a player's coach. We thought he was going to be a hard-nosed guy and all this stuff, and he just did not do well for Washington. So, you know, why would we pick Mike Tomlin? Well, Mike Tomlin had a much better track record than Ron Rivera, obviously. Mike Tomlin has won, you know, a Super Bowl. But at the same time, it's been a while since Pittsburgh has won a playoff game. It's been a while since they've been in the Super Bowl. So it may be that we hope that it'd be a scenario kind of like the Andy Reid scenario, where
Yeah.
Andy Reid, very popular, very successful in Philadelphia, but kind of got to where like he just never really got to the point to where he was going to get them over the hump.
Yeah.
And then goes to Kansas City, turns Kansas City around, and then eventually, they are Super Bowl contenders and champions. So, maybe a change of scenery would be good for Tomlin. But I'm all for it. If not Tomlin, then certainly I'm all for a good young offensive mind. Somebody that we feel like could be the next, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, and all of that. But if not that, then hey, I'm for Tomlin. What about you, Brandon?
Man, I say this, kind of looking at it from a couple of perspectives. Number one, I firmly believe that his organization needed to bring in kind of a younger coach, but if you have a chance to pick up Mike Tomlin, you make that move. Because players coach, but he's a different brand of players coach. He holds players accountable, which Ron Rivera does not do. He's a hard-nosed coach who, again, if you look at the track, I don't want to kind of throw any shade at Ron Rivera, but let's not really compare records because, you're looking at a guy who has coached a team winning a Super Bowl. And I know that Ron Rivera's been to Super Bowl, but, it's one thing getting to the supermarket and shopping in the supermarket. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you have a chance to get a Mike Tomlin, who, again, he's from Hampton, Virginia, so he's definitely a local product. He has ties to this area. I've been a guy who a long time – my dad's a Steelers fan, so I talk to my dad all the time, and I say, "Look, man, I would love to have your coach because I've always been a big fan of Mike Tomlin. I love his style. He's hard nosed, but he's fair. He gets the most out of his players. But another but there, I'm not going to give him GM powers. I think we need to go ahead and hire a legitimate general manager and let him make that decision. And let him talk to management because management, look, you best believe that Josh Harris and Magic Johnson, they want to make a splash. Season tickets just went up. Look, they're trying to make their money back. They're trying to bring people back to the stadium. They're trying to get a new stadium. They're trying to, so, obviously a lot of people aren't happy about the season tickets. And we're going to talk about that in the episode coming up, man, because I think that's a hot topic right now. But they want to make a splash because how do you get that money back? How do you make up for bringing the season tickets up? By bringing people to the seats. They're going to come watch Mike Tomlin coach. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that's a move they need to consider. I think that a move for him would kind of mirror the move that the trade for John Gruden when he went from Oakland to Tampa Bay. I think that I got to look at the compensation for that trade, but you could definitely trade for coaches, man. I think that would definitely be a good move for this organization if he's available because there's a lot of smoke, man. And when they say when there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a lot of reports coming out of Pittsburgh and from around the sporting news community, man, where there's a little traction there. And really, I don't get it because, he's been very successful in Pittsburgh. And I know he's trying to be that guy to catch up to, I can't even think of the name, man. We're just talking about the head coach, the most winning is Noel. So
Chuck Noll, yeah.
Yeah, Chuck Noll. So I think it's questionable, but look, that ain't our problem. If there's a chance that you can acquire him, you make that move because he is a Super Bowl contending coach with Super Bowl experience. He knows how to take teams to the ultimate stage, and that's what we need here. So, I was firmly a believer that we need to go ahead and get a young coach, maybe like Ben Johnson out of Detroit. Big fan of him. I didn't like Belichick. Harbaugh wasn't really somebody I'm going to really fight for or cry if we don't get him. But Mike Tomlin, you make that move easy, man. So before we roll, man, you got anything else you want to cover as far as Mike Tomlin and his potential move to DC?
Well, I just hope that if there is fire behind any smoke with this, that Mike Tomlin doesn't turn into another head coach who wants to have God powers, right? Because I just don't really understand why a head coach wants to take on all of that responsibility. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it's just, I think most of the time, honestly, as a head coach, I think you would. Why would you want to take on that responsibility? I mean, I would want to be able to know that I have a general manager who's going to take care of all of my needs. It's kind of like being able to be rich enough to where you can afford servants and all that, a butler, right? Someone who's going to bring you your slippers and someone who's going to cook you your food, right? It's like, if you're going to be treated right like royalty, then why are you going to have to do so much extra work? I would rather be able, like, if I'm a Mike Tomlin, or if I was a Joe Gibbs or something like that, the last thing I would want to do is put that much more responsibility on myself. I would want to know who is the general manager, because if that general manager has a good reputation for being able to go out, use the analytics, hopefully, and to be able to go out and find the diamonds in the rough, a la how Bobby Beathard used to be able to do, but being able to find the right guys for what I need, then if I can trust him to do that, why do I want to take on that responsibility? I want to focus on making the product on the field as best as possible. So that's why I just don't really get why head coaches want to take on the extra responsibility. I get it's an ego thing, I guess, as well. But if it doesn't work, then it really doesn't work. And I think a lot of times, if you swing and you miss on that, you could really set you back as far as your career in the NFL. So that's my only caution, I think, would be of bringing someone like Mike Tomlin in is what would he want? How much power does he want? If he just wants a change of scenery and he feels like that a place like Washington is going to give him a fresh new start and an opportunity to build a champion, then by all means, present that to him in a way that's going to sound so attractive that he's not going to feel like he needs something of extra power, because extra power comes extra responsibility. And a lot of coaches can't handle that. Like Bill Belichick, he had all that responsibility, has that responsibility. Seemed like it worked okay while he had Tom Brady. But, now that he doesn't have Tom Brady and Gronk and a lot of these other solid players that he had over the years, and especially Tom Brady, though, it's not working. It's not working. And so that is my only thing with bringing in Tomlin. Other than that, I'm all for it. I would drive myself up to Pittsburgh if that's where he's actually staying, and help him to pack up and drive him down to Washington myself, because I love the guy. Like you said, I think he's firm, but he's fair, and that's something that Washington has always needed. So let's see what happens, but definitely we, folks, the long and short of it is we are going to have a new head coach next year, one way or the other. So it's going to be interesting to see, but let's just keep in mind what's going to happen. Let's keep an eye out in Pittsburgh, because things could happen. I think after a while, no matter who it is or how respected they are, if a franchise is worth the grain of salt, they're going to want to have a Super Bowl. And if that coach has not brought them to a Super Bowl in a few years, you have to make a change. So it may be that there is actually some fire, around that smoke. So Brandon, we'll find out.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think the Washington Commanders definitely need to swing for the fences and make an attempt to get Mike Tomlin if his tenure in Pittsburgh is indeed over. But my plan B is obviously Ben Johnson, the head coach, and Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator. That's me. So we're going to move on. We're going to put our GM hats on, and we're going to look at the first three picks, because we are slated to be a top 5, definitely top 10 pick team. But if you look at our second round picks, man, we are slated around the 36th and the 38th pick. Obviously, the 38th pick being from Chicago in the Montez Sweat trade. So It's draft time. First round. Who you going with, man?
Okay, well, I haven't. I'll be honest with you, and Brandon and I were talking about this before we started recording. I went to the website to do my mock draft, and I realized I only did the mock draft for the first round. It's like, oh no, I want to go back and do all of the rounds. And then I went back to do it, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can only do this once a day." So I only got to the first round, but of course, first round, I chose Joe Alt.
Okay.
He's a junior. I realize that he's going to be coming out of Notre Dame, a year early, but I like him. I think that he's got a slight edge over a lot of the other offensive tackles. He does have some weaknesses. I've been reading up on some of his weaknesses. I'll just go over quickly. Not all of his strengths and weaknesses. You guys can look that up. But, he boasts a prototypical blindside protector build. The guy's huge. He's like 6'8".
Yeah.
6'8", 315 pounds. I mean, he's a mammoth size. His size reminds me of Trent Williams. He's very athletic. He's almost like a tight end type of athleticism is what I've heard with his strengths. He can process defensive schemes on the fly, so it tells you he's a very smart individual. He can pick things up pretty quickly. Combines a rare blend with his size and excellent pad level to dominate the point of attack and sustaining blocks with an ironclad base and active feet. Now, a little bit of his weaknesses, he will allow defenders to kind of get a little too close to his frame, which will compromise leverage. So he's going to need to kind of sharpen those skills a little bit. Has a tendency to lunge at opponents, leaving him susceptible to depth pass rush moves, and occasionally will falter in drive blocking and anchoring, things like that. So to me, overall, I guess all in all, he can kind of get a little bit off kilter a little bit in some of his techniques, but it's stuff that you can just kind of fine tune and correct in training camp. I mean, it's stuff that after a good solid year, he's going to be powerful, and that's what we have been looking for, Brandon, in a left tackle, someone who is powerful, someone who is big. And if you look at Leno, he is actually, I know his wife had said this at one time, he is actually one of the smaller left tackles in the league.
Yeah.
You need a big left tackle, and this guy is pretty big. I like him. That's who I'm picking in the first round.
Yeah, I mean that's a good pick, man. I'd like Alt out of Notre Dame, man. A big fan of him. I'm rolling off left tackle too, man, and I'm rolling with Alu Fashanu out of Penn State. I think that he's kind of similar to Alt, where he is a big guy, man. Out of Penn State, I think we both agree that we need to go left tackle. I know a lot of people, and I'm gonna throw this out there too. Another scenario, because me personally, I'm going left tackle. Whether it's Alt and Fashanu, man, are definitely my top two options at left tackle. But a lot of people have been talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., man. Now, there's two things with that. One, if they go best player available, because I don't think the quarterback needs to be left alone, man. And looking at the mock draft, I mean, let's be real. I mean, number one, we obviously know Caleb Williams is going to Chicago. There's been reports that the Atlanta Falcons are looking at the current Chicago Bears quarterback, man. So I think Caleb Williams is a shoo-in to go number one. But number two, it's interesting because I'm looking at SportsIllustrated.com right now in their mock draft, and they have Marvin Harrison Jr. going there. And looking at the contract situation with Murray, I can see that. So will Marvin Harrison Jr. be available? It's going to be hard to come out from under that contract extension they gave Kyler Murray, man. So I definitely see them getting Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair him with Marquise Brown. But looking at it, New England, they got at 3 getting Drake May. I can see that. I think Mac Jones is done. But there's the thing that might change what goes on with the Commanders at 5, is that at 4 they have Latu Latu, the edge of UCLA, going to Chicago to pair with Montez Sweat. So I think left tackles we need to go from here, man. So looking forward, we have 2 second-round picks that are pretty much first-round picks. I mean, they're right at the beginning of the second round. What positions would you prioritize in the second round?
Oh, honestly, second round, I'm still looking at a defensive edge, or continuing with an offensive tackle. I'd like depth, but probably a guard as well, because, let's face it, you need good depth. I'm not completely satisfied with I'm not satisfied at all with Wiley. As far as I'm concerned, I know that we've moved him around some with guard and now right tackle. So that's why I'm looking at, maybe someone who can play right tackle. I'm just looking at mock drafts for the second round. I see a mock draft for Washington Commanders choosing another offensive tackle, Amarius Mims out of Georgia. Now, I'm not sure if he's left tackle. If he is, I don't know if he could play right tackle. I'm going to use everybody's favorite thing from Ron Rivera, and they're going to be so sick hearing this, and it, quite frankly, it gives me a lot of joy to say it. Not just kidding. Position flex. Position flex. No. But if there's an offensive tackle in the second round that can play right tackle and left tackle, I think it's good for us to look at that. And then, of course, having 2 picks, also looking at an edge rusher, because obviously the guys that we had outside of KJ Henry, which I do kind of like, and I think we could kind of help to develop him a little bit further. Really wasn't much going on once we got rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So we really do need to look at solidifying those edge rushers. So I would look at seeing if there's a good edge rusher. I know that in the mocks, they're looking at a JT. Gosh, these people have gone to whatever happened to last names of Smith and Jones, but
right.
But JT, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, Tumalua out of Ohio State.
Gotcha.
So that is one that they're looking at as far as an early mock. It's defense in the early goings, or it is offensive line. And so the most unsexy choices that you're going to make probably in the first 2 rounds. And, of course, I haven't even gotten to the third round yet. But I just think that skilled positions right now, I don't think you look at that, especially quarterback. Now, I know that a lot of people and even some of the expert pundits are saying that, if Washington keeps creeping up in the draft order, then how do you not look at a quarterback if one of those quarterbacks happens to be available, or if Marvin Harrison Jr. happens to be available? How do you not pick him? And that's a fair assessment. I would not be opposed to drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., but we do need offensive lineman help. And if Alt is there, or somebody like that, you just and you know that you are not reaching for somebody like that, you got to pick them, because that is just an area of need that is beyond. I know that you hear the old adage of you don't draft for need. Well, I think you do, but you don't reach for that need. So
Yeah.
it's there's more to the story than that. So it gets a little bit more complicated. So obviously, if you have an area of need right there and you're not reaching, and you've got this all-star wide receiver who people think is going to be a sure thing, but you got also an all-star left tackle of whom you know you need, you're going to have to pick that left tackle. Yeah, you
Yeah.
just have to.
Yeah.
It'd be different if the team didn't have any wide receivers on their team. But, of course, Brandon, it's a whole new, gosh, I'm telling you, folks, we're going to have plenty of videos to talk about stuff. But it
Yeah.
just, my brain right now, a video comes to my head is who are our blue chip players, and do we have any blue chip players? And that's a good argument to make. And when we start to talk about drafting some of these guys, and there's an argument that some of these guys in the draft are sure blue chip players who are going to be generational players who are going to be game changers. And how do you not draft those guys and just settle for an offensive lineman? And those are fair arguments to make as well, and I understand that. But at the same time, it's not like we have scrubs at wide receiver. I think Terry McLaurin has more than, I think he's proven himself. You can argue, well, he's not a game changer. I can argue he hasn't had a franchise quarterback to throw to him. We haven't had a great offensive line in the last few years. So, give him something like that so he has time to run his routes. Jahan Dotson is not too shabby. So there's weapons on this team to be utilized. Now, are they game changers? Are they blue chippers? Right now, maybe you can argue they're not, but they're guys who are more than able to win games for you. So that's why I think that you have to stick with choosing offensive linemen and then, of course, looking on the defensive side and finding replacements for Chase Young and Montez Sweat.
Yeah, I agree, man. I totally agree. Left tackle. We got to go left tackle. Go get a franchise left tackle. I get so irritated, man, when I hear about quarterback. Why? We got a guy who's top 5 in passing yards, man, and with a crap O-line. Yeah, he's made mistakes, but look, he's practically a rookie. He has to develop while being a starting quarterback. He's had a lot of stuff to deal with, man. As far as he has no time to throw the ball. Sam Howell's it. I don't know why people think that we're going to continue to get a quarterback and somehow, because he's a new quarterback, it's going to be a whole new situation. No, if you don't have time to throw the ball, I don't care who you are, you're not going to throw the ball. Go get a franchise left tackle. We haven't had this quality left tackle since we had Trent Williams. Go get a left tackle. That needs to be the move right then and there. I do, man. I get irritated, Greg, man, because Sam Howell's not a scrub. This guy leads the NFL in passing yards. And he does that with a bad O-line, with the schemes being all over the place with Eric Bieniemy. It's just he's had so many factors against him than with him, and he still has had, in my opinion, a really good rookie season because it's practically his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
So you solidified his O-line and you give him every chance to succeed because he's already proven that he can throw. He can throw with accuracy. He can throw with power. He can run. He can run like a running back. He's got heart. He's a leader. What else do you need to go get another guy and try to build these qualities that you already have at the quarterback position? No, we're good at quarterback. Marvin Harrison, I would only make that move if they slide Jahan Dotson to slot. I think with his size, he's best served as a slot receiver. I think that he's a smaller wide receiver, and he's proven that he can go up there and get those catches. But put Marvin Harrison opposite of McLaurin. That's what I would do. So if they didn't make that move, I would definitely slide Jahan Dotson to slot. But in the case that they do go with Marvin Harrison Jr., and I don't know if he goes past Arizona because I think their biggest emphasis in Arizona is getting the receiver opposite Marquise Brown. And Kyler Murray is kind of like Daniel Jones. They're in it to win it with that contract, man. I think they're definitely in it for a while with Kyler Murray. So looking at the second round real quick, 4 options I'm looking at. Number 1, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver at LSU. If we go left tackle, receiver is an option. I think that Brian Thomas will be a receiver that can go in the slot or play opposite McLaurin. Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, offensive tackle. Maybe you slide him to right tackle. And if you come out of this draft with a right and a left tackle, then I'm not even upset at that because you definitely solidifying this old line. You mentioned edge. Braylon Trice out of Washington. He's slated at the 36th pick to the Washington Commanders. He is another guy I'm looking at on the edge. And, of course, another offensive tackle who could go to right tackle, Jordan Morgan out of Arizona is a guy that I would definitely consider. So we have options. And if you look at years past, Cam Curl was a 5th-round pick. Sam Howell was a 5th-round pick. We've had our struggles in the draft, but I think we have gotten value out of late-round picks. So, we definitely want to hit with the first couple rounds, if not the first 3 rounds. But there are options in the later rounds. But there's options nevertheless. But like I said, man, before we move on, man, I hate hearing about quarterback because to me, it seems like a lot of people just think that, you're just going to throw a different quarterback in there and it's going to be a different situation. No, you need an offensive line. It doesn't matter who you put in there. You can go put a vet in there. Go put Aaron Rodgers in there. If you don't have a line to protect him, then what are we talking about? Sam Howell, again, has struggled at times, yes, with decision-making, not throwing the ball away, not sliding, which, RG3 learned that the hard way. But, he leads the NFL in passing yards. I mean, out of what statistic do you judge a quarterback outside of quarterback rating? Passing yards, outside of obviously touchdowns and interceptions, but passing yards. This guy leads the NFL. See, and just like that, oh no, we're gonna go bring a rookie in. Nah, go get a left tackle and go on from there. So I think that they always say great minds think alike. I think we definitely entered the draft with the like mind that we need to solidify the offensive line. So before we roll tonight, man, you have anything else you want to cover real quick?
That's pretty much it. Honestly, I agree with all of that. Folks, I don't really have anything else other than, hey, it's the bye week, so guess what? We have a good chance of winning this weekend.
Yeah, only us would lose on the bye week. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's going to be close. It's going to be close.
It's a close one, man. Yeah, man. Oh, definitely appreciate everybody, man. The draft, we're already thinking about the draft, so what's that tell you? But obviously, going forward for the rest of the year, we're going to still put out content for these games, man. Definitely give you our opinions about the games because season ain't over. But look, it can't hurt to look forward a little bit. So anywhere you get your podcast, a 5-star review would be much appreciated. On the YouTube side, subscribe. Definitely consider joining us as a Washington football maniac because I'm telling you, man, a lot of good content coming your way, man. We're looking to have guests within the next 2 to 3 weeks, man, and we're definitely going to be asking a lot of important questions going into the offseason for the Washington Commanders. So everybody, TGIF, thank God it's Friday. Hail to the Commanders, and God bless. Everybody have a blessed weekend, and take care.
Peace.